Hello, and welcome to my Modlist showcase, where I give an overview and opinion on mod lists to help find the right one for you. This time, we're looking at Lost World, released for Fallout 4 and created by Screaming Lake. The version I've been playing on is version 1.0, released on the 4th of June 2022. You can check on the Modlist Discord linked below for any changes and updates. Firstly, what is Lost World? The description reads, Lost World is an experience focused around bleak visuals and hardcore survival mechanics, which attempts to capture the look and feel of the S.t.a.l.k.e.r series in Fallout 4. Everything from the music and audio, to your starting arsenal, to the combat difficulty has been adjusted to more closely resemble the S.t.a.l.k.e.r games. This experience also comes with its own ENB preset, custom tailored to capture the grim, desolate visual style of the series. Lost World is available to download from the Wabberjack Modlist installer. While I won't cover the specifics of the installation in this video, the installation was nice and simple, with clear instructions provided on their website, and there's even a helpful installation guide video added to their YouTube channel. With around 200 mods, this list totals to around 40 GB, and once installed, it does require a few tweaks with the in-game mod menu, but again, a clear guide will take you through it step by step. Now for what the mod list adds. For this showcase, I'll be showing clips taken throughout my current playthrough. I've spent plenty of time with this list, and so I have a good grasp on what it's like to play. As you can see, Lost World leans heavily on the eerie wasteland side of the visuals. While it can be a bit jarring compared to the vibrancy of vanilla, it does fit with the depressing world of Fallout. Much of this is down to the lighting, with mods like Ultra Interior Lighting providing a dark ambience add-on, and as the name suggests, creates a dark and sinister tone to many areas. And the weather mod, Polluted Climate, adds a hazy fog to the world, making exploring feel all the more creepy and giving off vibes from the Far Harbor DLC. Although, to counter some of the darkness, Wasteland Illumination and Lighting series light up much of the street lights and signs of the world. Combined with the darkness, the illuminated landmarks help provide a sense of comfort when exploring, as they can point you the way to shelter. As for changes to the world space itself, the mod A Forest emphasises the overgrown feeling of the post-apocalypse, with a huge amount of new trees and vegetation scattered into the open areas of the Commonwealth, and providing you and your enemies with more cover when fighting. And then there's the textures, where, for the general landscape, no new textures have been added. Although, some mods like Gritty Subway Stations and Dark Sci-Fi Vault Retexture add to the aging feeling of interiors. This list also comes with its own ENB preset, and as you can see, it heavily leans on the darker side of Fallout 4. The days feel grey and dreary, caves feel ominous, and night times are dark enough to make exploring feel incredibly dangerous. Although, if it isn't for you, then the guide comes with a helpful explanation of how to configure an ENB of your liking. And finally, there's the performance. And honestly, because of the fog and trees, I was expecting it to slow the game quite a bit, yet it's actually one of the best performing Fallout lists I've played. While I played it locked at 60 FPS, I could even reach beyond that, even in performance intensive areas like Boston. Lost World blends Fallout 4's exploration and roleplay with the S.t.a.l.k.e.r game's harsh survival. The main overhaul comes from the immersive Fallout mod, which could get a video all on its own, but to name some of the key features, movement for you and NPCs is much slower, with different types of weapons affecting mobility. Power armor is far slower and heavier. Creatures now move faster depending on their agility, and intimidate you a bit more before attacking. And finally, there's a bunch of combat changes, which I'll cover in the next section of this video. Although, going back to power armor, the mod Some Assembly Required makes power armor much more difficult to find and maintain, but with a buff to the overall stats. Then there's the radiation in the world, which has been made far more deadly, with more radioactive areas scattered about. And it pairs nicely with the Fallout 2287 mod, which adds a bunch of gameplay surrounding gas masks. You'll now need to find gas mask filters and repair the mask after taking damage. And the mod is highly customizable, so you can choose whether to make the air constantly irradiated, make radstorms far more deadly, and much more. And paired with the new animations and HUD elements it provides, the mod really is one of the most immersive out there. As for the general survival of the world, the mod Hunter of the Commonwealth adds a new hunting and gathering aspect. After hunting an animal, you'll need to use appropriate tools to pick them apart, for stuff like meat, blood, leather, and more. And paired with this mod is Mutant Menagerie, which adds a plethora of new creatures into the world, all to fight, hunt, and salvage from, many of which being creatures to appear in other Fallout games. Then there's the Campsite mod, which adds new campsites you can build in the wilderness. And finally, there's the Equipment and Crafting Overhaul, which makes huge changes to the crafting mechanic. New workbenches have been added, including the Universal Workbench, which can be carried around with you. You can also remove and swap out legendary effects, and there's now just more overall customization options with weapons and armour. Overall, the gameplay of Lost World is far more harsh and unforgiving, and you'll need to remember that working from low to high level will take time and patience. But to balance the new difficulty, more customization options allow you to plan ahead and be ready for every possible outcome. The combat of Fallout 4 was a step up for the franchise, but it still plays quite arcadey compared to other post-apocalyptic games. But with this list, the gameplay feels far more in depth and dangerous. Again, there's the immersive Fallout mod, which makes recoil far more prominent, and something you'll actually need to control. Also, aiming down sights no longer zooms in, because you know, your eyeball isn't a camera. And this is paired with the mod Uneducated Shooter, which adds a sway to your gun as you look around, which creates the feeling of weight and makes hip firing more difficult. Then there's Wasteland Ballistics, which adds a wound mechanic to bullets based on the caliber, shape, mass, and speed of their real-life counterparts. This makes armour all the more important, as body parts that are unprotected are far more susceptible to blood loss and crippling. And to help with these effects, new medical items have been included, which I'll talk about in the new items section of this video. To further shake up the combat, the No VATS overhaul removes VATS from the game, and for every perk that usually affects VATS, they've been tweaked to provide other useful benefits. Also, on top of the combat, there's a range of new enemies to go against, with Night of the Creeps adding new nighttime ghouls roaming around, and tougher creatures included with the Mutant Menagerie mod. Many new quests and locations have been added with this list, adding new underground locations to explore. The mod's Subway Runner, the Metro, the Sewers, and Ransacked Relays are all combined to include a huge amount of new underground areas, many of which including new NPCs to find, new quests, new armors and weapons, and more. With how dangerous the above ground is, they provide a great new way to traverse the Commonwealth, and in general, they'll really give off the vibe of the Metro games, which actually fits pretty well into Fallout. On top of this, quest mods, like Children of Oakwaltoth, add creepy new stories into the game, and while I haven't got round to them on my playthrough, the general opinion is that they're great and seamlessly integrate into Fallout's lore. And finally, mods like Inside Jobs, Hunkered Down, and More Explore add a more post-apocalyptic feeling to the world, opening up many of the buildings that were once inaccessible. To fit with the updated combat, a number of new items have been included. There's loads of new rifles, pistols, shotguns, and more, all of which feeling incredibly high quality. They also lean towards the modern firearms side of things, again making the game feel more like S.t.a.l.k.e.r than Fallout, not that the weapons feel too out of place. And the same goes for new armour and clothing, many of which stick into the tactical military theme. Some clothing items even offer more to the gameplay, with new backpacks to increase carry weight, hazmat suits for radiation, and flashlights to attach to your body, all of which integrated into the level lists. Lastly, new medical items are scattered throughout the Commonwealth with the Wasteland Medic mod, including items such as splints for broken limbs, a compress to stop bleeding, and most importantly, coffee to quench your thirst. When a list is heavy on survival, it's vital to hear everything that's going on around you. And so, Lost World offers mods such as Reverb and Ambience Overhaul, and a number of other general ambience mods, which really bring life and depth to the world. Gunshots in tunnels will echo throughout, and distant explosions can be heard from across the Commonwealth. There's also the Silent Protagonist mod, which removes the voice from the player character. I personally always use this mod, but you can probably disable it if it isn't for you. And to top things off, a number of new music tracks have been added, many of which brought over from the s.t.a.l.k.e.r games. Have a listen to the audio for yourself. For some other notable changes with this list, the UI has been overhauled with Fall UI, which uses a preset to make the HUD appear like stalkers. New player homes have been added, all of which stick into the rundown Fallout theme. You can use items without having to pick them up and select through your inventory. And finally, the NPC's travel mod has new NPCs casually travelling throughout the wasteland. Now for some additions to the list, but first I must stress, any changes you make to the list has nothing to do with the Modlist author. You should only do so if you have an understanding of modding, and accept that any consequences are yours to deal with. So before adding any extra survival stuff to the list, it's worth checking out the survival configuration menu. In here, you can make loads of tweaks to survival gameplay, such as hunger rates, damage output, chance of catching diseases, and so on. As for added mods, I'd personally add a mod like loot logic and reduction, which makes ammo harder to find. Although it's likely something like this will be added in the future, so be sure to check the list's update notes. And if you have ultrawide like me, you'll need to install the Truby 9 ultrawide patch to get it working. And for a final note, the website for this mod list offers a guide for modding, so it's worth giving that a look if you want to add anything. So when it comes to Fallout, I'm a big fan of survival mode, as living in the post-apocalypse should be a difficult task. Not only does Lost World provide that, it adds its own spin by combining the world of Fallout with the look and feel of the s.t.a.l.k.e.r games. Every time you want to go explore for loot, you feel like taking the time to gear up and plan appropriately, and keep looking around with caution. This way, the gameplay feels slowed down, but not in a way that makes it a drag, as successfully looting a building or taking out a group of bandits feels so much more rewarding than vanilla. If you're into the s.t.a.l.k.e.r games, then you'll no doubt enjoy this list, but if you're like me and have never played them, you'll still find a lot to love. Lost World aims specifically for the survival mode demographic, and if you find vanilla Fallout 4 too easy, then it's worth giving this difficult and polished experience a try. Thank you for watching! If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a like, as it helps the channel grow. I also have a Twitch where I'll sometimes stream, I'll do it one day, and a Discord if you want to talk about mod stuff or anything else. Other than that, big thank you to my Patreon supporters, Emperador Wolf, Jack Ma, Michael Eric, and Christian Howell. It's through your contributions that I keep this channel going, and it's so good to see it grow every day, and it really is all thanks to you, so thank you so much. And farewell everyone.